In this story, I'm going to tell you about a man who spent years standing on the other side of the door, about cameras that were never meant for safety, but for control, and about faces you would recognize anywhere, caught in moments that can never be taken back. If stories like this matter to you, follow Night Drive Confidential. It was evening, winter. The city was dark, but still moving. Snow had been lying on the ground for days, along sidewalks, at the edges of the road, pressed down, gray, marked by tires and footsteps. Streetlights reflected off the wet asphalt, and cars moved quietly past each other, each one going somewhere else. That's when he got into my car. The door closed softly, too softly. He sat down and immediately looked forward, not at me, not at his phone, as if he was watching the road, but really he was looking much farther away. He didn't look like a criminal. He looked like someone who had lived too long with someone else's secret. His suit was expensive but wrinkled, his tie slightly loosened, as if he had taken it off and put it back on more than once. His hands rested on his knees, his fingers tightened into a fist now and then. His eyes kept drifting to the side. Every dark SUV, every tinted window, every moment a car pulled a little too close. While the city lived its ordinary night, this man just wanted to disappear. We drove, unhurried. The engine hummed quietly. The cabin light stayed off. I glanced at him in the rearview mirror and asked if everything was okay. Not professionally, not intrusively, just human. He closed his eyes for a moment, as if that question finally gave him permission to speak. He didn't answer right away. He stared out the window, at the passing lights, at the snow along the sidewalks, at people moving through their evenings, not knowing how close they were to a story that would never be fully told. Then he began to talk. His voice was low, uneven. That's not how someone speaks when they want attention. That's how someone speaks when they can no longer carry it alone. He said he had been there, not once, not by accident, not briefly, for years. He was the one standing by the door. Every time, no questions asked. At first, it felt like a simple job. Security, rules, schedules. Look away, hear nothing, see nothing. The music inside was always loud enough to drown out everything else. Laughter, noise, doors closing. He said people think those places were about parties, about fame, about money. But in reality, they were about control, about who watches, who records, and who reminds you later that everything was kept. He told me about rooms with no windows, hallways without clocks, doors that closed more quietly than they should, and the cameras, they were never there for safety. They weren't meant to protect anyone. They were there so no one would forget their place. Files, folders, hard drives. He had seen faces the whole world recognizes, from advertisements, from interviews, from billboards. People who speak publicly about values, about strength, about success. And he had seen those same faces in moments, when the lights were off, when there was no audience, when there were no excuses. He said silence was the real currency in that world. The more you saw, the quieter you had to be. At first, he told himself it wasn't his job to think, that he was just a body between a door and the world. The less you think, the easier it is to stay. Over time, he learned not to hear, not to react to voices, to sounds that didn't match the music. No one ever told him directly that he had to become blind. It just happened. He saw other guards disappear. Some left without explanation. Some simply never came back. No one talked about them. And that silence was the loudest warning of all. Every night left marks, not on floors, not on walls, on people, on eyes that no longer met yours, on the silence the next day. The hardest part, he said, was that evil didn't look like evil. It was polished, it smelled expensive, it spoke calmly, and that's exactly what made it dangerous. He began to understand that the cameras weren't just recording, they were reminders of what happens when someone forgets where they stand. Some faces appeared again and again, always smiling in public, always different once the doors closed. And then came the moment when he realized he was in the recordings too, not doing anything, just seeing, standing there, not reacting. He understood that this was proof as well, that he was part of the chain. From that point on, he didn't sleep the same. Sleep came in fragments, filled with the same scenes over and over. Even in silence, his mind kept making noise, like a room without music, where everything buried finally becomes audible. He began avoiding people, avoiding questions, avoiding eye contact, because every question felt like a risk. He said he became his own guard, checking mirrors, windows, phone sounds, not because someone was following him, but because he no longer knew what safety felt like. He thought about leaving for a long time, but leaving meant becoming visible, and visibility in that world was more dangerous than silence. He saw what happened to people who tried to speak. They lost everything: jobs, relationships, any place to exist. And then came the moment when he realized that silence also has a price. Not immediately, but slowly, paid with health, with sleep, with the ability to look at yourself in the mirror. We kept driving. The city outside moved calmly, lights passing by, people living their lives, unaware how close they had been to the truth. He spoke more slowly now, as if every word had to pass through a filter so it wouldn't sound too loud. He said the hardest part wasn't what he saw. The hardest part was that over time, it all started to feel normal. Boundaries didn't vanish suddenly. They just shifted. First, it's not my job. Then, it's not my decision. And finally, it's no longer my path. He said there were moments when he wanted to stand up and leave, to simply never come back. But every time, something kept him there. Money, fear, habit, and that quiet promise to himself that maybe tomorrow things would be different. He said that over time you start living in two worlds. One where everything looks normal, work, routine, conversations, and another where you carry things inside you can't talk about, not even with the people closest to you. He said he would sometimes look at strangers and think, if you only knew how easy it is for the line between witness and participant to disappear, how quickly silence turns into involvement. He fell silent. The car kept moving forward, the engine steady, the road empty. Then he gave me an address, quietly, without explanation. An address that didn't feel like a destination, but like a pause. We stopped. He opened the door and stepped out. Disappeared among other people moving through their lives. Cars kept driving. The city kept breathing. And in that moment, I understood something. The biggest boundaries in life are rarely crossed in one step. They're crossed slowly, through silence, through choosing to stay one more day, one more time. At first, it looks harmless, like a job, like an opportunity, like a compromise you can live with. But over time, you stop noticing when compromise becomes habit, and habit becomes a weight. And the most dangerous part of all is this. By the time you understand it, stepping away already costs far more than staying silent ever did. If stories like this make you look deeper, follow Night Drive Confidential.